Officials say thousands of gallons worth of firefighting foam containing a potentially dangerous chemical called PFAS went into drains and waterways. Yesterday, they were still working to clear foam from the Rainbow Brook in Windsor.
Breaking news right now. We're learning that firefighters were called out to Bradley International Airport for an incident involving a plane. You still see the smoke in the air coming from that scene.
This is the second time in less than 4 months that firefighting foam is at the center of an environmental health scare here in Connecticut. Back in June, 50,000 gallons of the foam spilled into the Farmington River after a fire suppression system malfunctioned in a hangar at Bradley Airport.
I look forward to a day when everybody is focused on protecting our clean air, our clean water, that we don't take these natural resources for granted, that we really think long and hard about, what makes our world wonderful and what makes this state wonderful. And it's these trees that are changing color, it's the fish in this water, and it's leaving this as a legacy to our kids. What happened at Bradley and the recent plane crash, we saw them using firefighting foam there. We know that there's a risk of contamination from PFAS, which is also known as the forever chemical, and that these discharges of PFAS can end up in the Farmington River. That's not a good thing, and we're monitoring that situation closely. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection is now testing, and we want to make sure that we minimize the discharges and that they don't end up in our water supply.
Just wanted to see where the testing for PFAS in the Farmington River is, and that process is right now. There's still samples being taken, collecting, etc.
I think it's a fair question to ask, and there's a lot of great input from the stakeholders, and to a lot of what people said here is that we are listening to what people are telling us. There's a lot of interests from different sides of this. There's some people that say it should be sampled immediately. There's some people that say we should sample 5 years from now. And what we're doing, considering everyone's comments and everyone's input, so that we are being protective of human health, but we're also mindful of all the other considerations that are there.
Drinking water right now is suggested at 70 parts per trillion. You see water coming out of impacted sites that is at thousands, 10,000s of that number. So that is sky high, and then you would really cry foul and say this is not looking good. I think the drinking water question is very important because A, we take safe, clean drinking water for granted. And the other part is that for most of us, we can't easily change our drinking water supply. So what do? You go with bottled water every day, which is unclear if it's better. And so then you have to install your own treatment system. You've got to maintain it. All of that is expensive, frustrating, cumbersome, so it's not really anything you want to do. Basically, transfer a liter into maybe 1 milliliter, which will then be injected and analyzed by an instrument.
Okay.
That's what we need to be able to detect it on the instrument because they are at very, very low concentrations. It's a beautiful little makeup of PFOS, probably the worst of the lot. They don't break down because they like being in the water, so we think they end up in the ocean ultimately, because there's nowhere else to go. So if you spill into a river that goes straight to the ocean, then it's not beautiful, it's not nice, it shouldn't happen, but at least they're flushed out and they're gone.
I would say every state is confronting this issue differently. And if we have the basis to take action, and when we get to that point, and if it includes a lawsuit, we'll do it to keep people safe here in Connecticut. It's really important to gather data and get information about exposure levels, about the scale and depth of the exposure before we take concrete action like a lawsuit.
The notices that went up, that seemed to be when people really started talking about this a little bit more, right?
Yeah, it really brought home the idea that there's something really bad that happened. And DEP was right out here, and the town health officials were right out here warning people. But now, yeah, we're reading about it all over the state, and the governor got involved with the task force, and our federal delegation is trying to get it, basically, get it banned. declare it to be a hazardous material and get it off airports, get it off the grounds of fire departments. It's a big, big venture though.
The system is delivered through our 2 front crosslays. So it's a series of adductors and injectors, and you turn the system on, and when those levers are pulled for those crosslays, it sends it direct.
When would this be used most often? What sort of incident?
Fuel spills, ruptured fuel tanks, saddle tanks on a tractor trailer or oil delivery truck, something limited in size to approximately 50 feet by 50 feet. Anything larger than that, we'd have to call in additional resources. In an atmosphere where the vapors are creating a hazard, flammable ranges, flash points, it's just a tool that we need to be able to have.
This is the zen part of it, right? You get out here, you're focused on the fish, you're focused on your fly, but then you look up and you realize you're standing in the middle of the Farmington. You know, it's just an amazing trout fishery.
All the more reason we want to protect it, right?
All the more reason we want to protect it. PFAS, frankly, for lack of a better description, is industrial Teflon. And Teflon's everywhere. It's used in everything. It's used in household products. We cook with it, we bathe with it. It's in most, many items that we use every day in life. And so to escape it is very hard to do. But what we want to make sure is that there's not heavy concentrations of PFAS contamination that can pose a risk to this beautiful natural resource, to the fish, to the wildlife, to the plants, but also to human beings. And that science is still developing.
Everybody is catching up in the game. So, here you got the Stockholm Convention identifying these officially globally as Annex B in 2012. Then you've got the EPA identifying them as a priority, emerging contaminants following that. And now it hasn't been that long, it's been 7 years since the Stockholm Convention's identification. And that's what we're doing right now. That's what you're doing by identifying this is a serious issue, and people will act accordingly. They have to. Yeah.
This is our water supply. This is what we depend on to live. Mm-hmm. And we have to be careful about protecting this incredible resource. Make sure that people understand the tremendous value of this resource, and that we not dump chemicals into it, and that we not take it easy on our environmental regulations and loosen them and get complacent. We can't get complacent. We should protect it very forcefully and aggressively because it's just that beautiful.